The massive doors of the Galactic Council chambers opened with a deep hum. Ambassador Zekthara walked inside with his chest puffed out and his 4 arms swinging proudly. His dark purple skin gleamed under the bright lights. The other council members looked up from their seats as he entered. The council chamber was huge. It could hold representatives from over 200 different alien species. Today, about 60 species had sent their ambassadors. They sat in special chairs made for their different body types. Some had tentacles, others had wings, and a few floated in special containers filled with gas. Zekthara was from the Vorthak Empire. His people looked like giant insects with 4 arms and sharp teeth. They had built a strong military over the past 50 years. The Vorthak controlled 30 star systems and had a fleet of over 3,000 warships. "I call this emergency session to order," said Elder Counselor Marandai. She was very old, even for her species. The Ethereal Collective had been part of the galaxy for over 10,000 years. Her people looked like tall, thin humans but with silver skin and glowing blue eyes. Zekthara stepped forward to the speaking platform. "Honored council members," he began, "I come before you today to make an important announcement. The Vorthak Empire has decided to claim the human colonies on the outer rim worlds." The chamber became very quiet. Some of the smaller aliens stopped breathing. A few of the floating gas creatures started changing colors rapidly, which meant they were scared. "Surely you mean you wish to trade with the humans," said Counselor Veltarn from the crystalline hegemony. His rock-like body clicked as he spoke. "No," Zekthara said with a wicked smile. "We will take their worlds by force. We declare war on all human settlements." The silence that followed was so complete that the soft hum of the air recyclers seemed loud. Then suddenly everyone started talking at once. Voices rose in panic and disbelief. "This is madness," shouted the representative from the Hive Confederation. "You cannot be serious," cried the ambassador from the Star Serpent clans. Elder Counselor Marandai stood up slowly. Her ancient voice cut through the noise like a knife. "Ambassador Zekthara, please tell me you are making some kind of joke." Zekthara's mandibles clicked together, making a sound like breaking glass. "This is no joke, old one. The humans have grown soft and weak. They live on small farming worlds with no real defenses. They have no unified military. They are scattered and helpless. You fool." The voice came from the back of the chamber. A blue-skinned alien with 6 eyes was standing up. "Do you have any idea what you are saying?" "The humans are just another species," Zekthara replied. "They have been quiet for too long. It is time for a stronger race to take what they have." Several aliens were already moving toward the exits. The representative from the Peaceful Trading Union was frantically typing on a communication device. Others were making urgent calls to their home governments. In the observation gallery above the main chamber, a human woman sat perfectly still. Ambassador Sarah Chen was 45 years old, with short black hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a simple blue diplomatic uniform. While the aliens around her panicked, she showed no emotion at all. Sarah slowly reached into her jacket pocket and pulled out a small communication device. She typed a brief message. "Vorthak have declared war. Recommend Protocol 7. She sent the message and put the device away. Down in the main chamber, the panic was getting worse. Some aliens were praying in their native languages. Others were trying to convince Zekthara to change his mind. "Ambassador," said Marandai, "you must understand. No species has been foolish enough to attack humanity in over 200 years. There are very good reasons for this." "What reasons?" Zekthara demanded. "They are weak. We have studied their colonies. They have simple farms and small mining operations. They have no battle fleets. They have no weapons of war. You have studied only what they let you see," warned Veltarn. "There are things about humanity that you do not understand." "Superstitions," Zekthara laughed. "You are all afraid of ghost stories and old legends. The humans were powerful once, perhaps, but that was long ago. Now they are nothing." A small furry alien with big ears spoke up. "My grandfather told me stories about the old days. He said the humans once ruled half the galaxy. He said they had weapons that could destroy entire star systems." "Stories," Zekthara waved his arms dismissively. Old tales told to frighten children. I have seen the truth with my own eyes. The humans live in small settlements. They grow food and dig for minerals. They are farmers and miners, not warriors. Then why? Asked Merendai quietly. Does every major power in this galaxy have strict non-aggression treaties with humanity? Why do our most warlike species refuse to even enter human space without permission? Because you are all cowards, Zekthara replied. You are afraid of shadows and myths. The Vorthak Empire is not afraid. We will show you how easy it is to defeat these so-called powerful humans. More aliens were leaving the chamber now. The representative from the Quantum Collective was literally teleporting away in flashes of light. The ambassador from the machine, Intelligence, was rolling toward the exit on his metal wheels, making beeping sounds of distress. Please, begged the counselor from the Pacifist Alliance. Please reconsider. Contact your emperor. Tell him to stop this madness before it is too late. It is already decided, Zekthara announced. Our fleets are preparing to move. Within one standard week, we will attack the human colony world of New Eden. It will be the first of many victories. The chamber erupted in new cries of alarm. Several aliens fainted. Others were making desperate calls to their governments, warning them to cut all ties with the Vorthak Empire immediately. Up in the observation gallery, Sarah Chen stood up calmly. She walked to the railing and looked down at the chaos below. Her voice was not loud, but somehow everyone in the chamber heard her clearly. Ambassador Zekthara, she said. The Vorthak turned to look up at her. Ah, the human speaks at last. Do you wish to surrender now and save your people the trouble of fighting? Sarah's expression did not change. I wish to give you one final warning. You have no idea what you are about to face. Even now you could stop this. You could withdraw your fleets and apologize. No one would think less of you for choosing wisdom over destruction. Zekthara's laugh echoed through the chamber. Threaten me? One human woman threatens the mighty Vorthak Empire? This is even more amusing than I expected. It is not a threat, Sarah replied calmly. It is a fact. You have made your choice. Now you will learn why no one attacks humanity. She turned and walked toward the exit. As she reached the door, she paused and looked back. Counselor Merendai, she said, I suggest you prepare the emergency medical stations. You will need them for Vorthak survivors. Survivors? Zekthara snarled. There will be no human survivors when we are finished. Sarah looked at him for a long moment. Her expression was almost pitying. I was not talking about human survivors, Ambassador. She left the chamber. The door closed behind her with a soft click. The remaining council members sat in stunned silence. They all knew they had just witnessed something terrible. The Vorthak Empire had just signed its own death warrant. Zekthara stood alone on the speaking platform, still proud and confident. He had no idea that he had just doomed his entire species. In his arrogance, he could not see the fear in the eyes of beings who had lived for thousands of years. He could not understand why the most powerful species in the galaxy were terrified of attacking a few small human farming colonies. This session is adjourned, Merendai said quietly. May the stars have mercy on us all. As the aliens filed out of the chamber, many of them were already making plans. They would send messages to their homeworlds. They would cut all diplomatic ties with the Vorthak Empire. They would make sure that when the humans responded, no one would think they had been involved in this madness. The age of peace was about to end, and everyone except the Vorthak knew exactly who would be responsible for ending it. The news spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Within 6 hours of Zekthara's declaration, emergency meetings were being held on 1,000 different worlds. Panic was everywhere. On the crystal world of Velthara Prime, the crystalline, Hegemony's High Council met in their shimmering palace. The building was made entirely of living crystal that sang softly in the wind. Today the song was sad and frightened. We must distance ourselves from the Vorthak immediately, declared High Counselor Kethron. His body was made of blue-green, crystal that reflected light in beautiful patterns. Cut all trade agreements. Cancel all diplomatic meetings. We cannot be associated with this madness. Similar scenes were happening everywhere. The Hive Confederation ordered all their ships to stay away from Vorthak space. The machine intelligence calculated that helping the Vorthak would result in a 99.7% chance of total destruction. Even the warlike Star Serpent clans, who loved fighting more than anything else, decided this was not a fight they wanted any part of. But the most urgent response came from the Ethereal Collective. Elder Counselor Marandai stood in her private chambers, her glowing blue eyes filled with ancient worry. She had lived for over 3,000 years. She remembered things that other species had forgotten. "Prepare my fastest ship," she told her aide. "I must reach the Vorthak homeworld before they do something that cannot be undone." "Elder," the aide said nervously, "perhaps we should send a message instead. It would be safer." Marandai shook her head. "This requires a personal visit. The Vorthak must be made to understand what they are facing." The journey to the Vorthak homeworld took 18 hours, even in the fastest ship the Ethereal Collective had. During the trip, Marandai received dozens of messages from other species leaders. All of them were begging her to stop the Vorthak. All of them were terrified of what would happen if she failed. The Vorthak homeworld was called Krekstar. It was a hot, dry planet with red rocks and purple skies. The Vorthak had built massive cities that looked like giant insect hives. Their military headquarters was the largest building on the planet, a black tower that reached high into the clouds. When Marandai's ship landed at the spaceport, she was met by Vorthak soldiers. They had sharp claws and wore thick armor. Their weapons looked deadly, but Marandai knew they would be useless against what was coming. "Elder Counselor," said the Vorthak captain, "Admiral Krestoth is waiting for you." Admiral Krestoth was the leader of the Vorthak military. He was even larger than Ambassador Zekthara, with scars covering his purple skin. His office was filled with holographic displays showing star charts and battle plans. Marandai could see that the Vorthak fleet was already moving toward human space. "Elder," Krestoth said without looking up from his displays, "I hope you have not come here to waste my time with warnings and pleas." "Admiral," Marandai replied, "I have come to save your species from total annihilation." Krestoth finally turned to look at her. His compound eyes reflected the light from the holographic displays. "Save us? From a handful of human farmers? Your reputation for wisdom must be greatly exaggerated." "Admiral, please listen to me carefully. I am going to tell you things that our species have kept secret for hundreds of years. The humans are not what they appear to be." "I know exactly what they are," Krestoth said confidently. "We have been watching them for decades. They live on small worlds. They grow crops and mine resources. They have no significant military presence. They are weak and scattered. That is what they want you to think," Marandai said urgently. "What you see is a carefully maintained illusion. The truth is much more frightening." Krestoth laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Illusion? Elder, with respect, your species has always been prone to believing in magic and mystery. We Vorthak believe in facts, and the fact is that humans are an easy target." Marandai moved closer to the Admiral's desk. "Let me tell you some facts that you do not know. 2,000 years ago, humanity ruled half of this galaxy. They had weapons that could destroy entire star systems. They had fleets that numbered in the millions. They were the most powerful force the galaxy had ever seen." "I have heard these old stories," Krestoth replied dismissively. "But that was long ago. Even if it was true those humans are long dead, the ones living now are different." "No," Marandai said firmly. "They are the same. They never left. They never became weak. They simply chose to withdraw from galactic politics. But they never stopped watching. They never stopped preparing." The Admiral turned back to his displays. "Preparing for what? If they were so powerful, why do they hide on farming worlds? Why do they not rule the galaxy anymore?" "Because they found ruling to be boring," Marandai said quietly. "They discovered that conquest was easy, but governing was tedious. So they stepped back and let other species develop, but they never gave up their power. They simply hid it." Ridiculous, Krestoth snorted. You expect me to believe that humans could destroy my entire fleet, but they choose to pretend to be farmers instead? Yes, Mirandai said simply. That is exactly what I expect you to believe, because it is the truth. Meanwhile, on dozens of other worlds, similar conversations were taking place. The Pacifist Alliance sent their most respected diplomat to try to reason with the Vorthak. The Quantum Collective offered to share their most advanced technology in exchange for calling off the attack. The trading union promised exclusive deals worth trillions of credits, but the Vorthak refused every offer. They were convinced that everyone else in the galaxy was simply jealous of their upcoming victory. They believed that other species wanted to keep the humans' resources for themselves. On the water world of Aquatica, the fluid folk held an emergency council meeting. They lived in cities beneath the waves and rarely involved themselves in galactic politics. But even they were worried about what the Vorthak were planning. The Vorthak do not understand, gurgled Elder Wavecrest. The humans allow us to exist because they choose to. If they wanted our worlds, they could take them in a single day. Should we send a warning to the Vorthak? Asked a younger member of the council. We should send a message to the humans, Wavecrest replied. We should apologize for the Vorthak's stupidity and beg for mercy. Back on Krextar, Admiral Krestoth was showing Elder Mirandai his fleet's battle plans. Holographic displays showed the positions of 3,000 Vorthak warships. They were moving in perfect formation toward human space. You see, Elder, Krestoth said proudly, we have planned this attack carefully. Our intelligence shows that the humans have no significant defenses. New Eden is a farming world with a population of only 50 million. They have a few small patrol ships, nothing more. Admiral, Mirandai pleaded, you are making a terrible mistake. The humans you see are not the real humans. They are like actors playing a role. The real humans are hidden, waiting. Waiting for what? Krestoth demanded. Waiting for someone to be foolish enough to attack them, Mirandai replied, so they can remind the galaxy why everyone fears them. Krestoth's mandibles clicked with annoyance. I grow tired of your superstitions. My fleet will reach New Eden in 3 days. You will see how wrong you are when we achieve our victory. There will be no victory, Mirandai said sadly. There will only be death and destruction. And when it is over, the galaxy will remember why we must never anger humanity. She turned to leave, but paused at the door. Admiral, I will ask you, one final time, please reconsider. Contact your Emperor. Tell him to call off this attack. It is not too late. It is too late for the humans, Krestoth replied. My fleet is already in hyperspace. By this time tomorrow, we will be in human territory. By the day after, New Eden will belong to the Vorthak Empire. Mirandai left the military headquarters with a heavy heart. She had failed. The Vorthak were too proud and too confident to listen to reason. They would learn the truth soon enough, but by then it would be too late for most of them. As her ship lifted off from Krextar, she sent a message to the other council members. The Vorthak cannot be reasoned with. They are committed to their course. Prepare for the consequences. Across the galaxy, species that had not spoken to each other in centuries began working together. They shared information about human capabilities. They discussed evacuation plans. They prepared for a war that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. But in human space, everything seemed calm and peaceful. The farming worlds continued their daily routines. The mining stations kept working. The small patrol ships followed their normal routes. It was as if the humans had no idea that 3,000 enemy warships were heading toward them. Or perhaps they simply did not care. The Vorthak fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the New Eden system like a dark cloud blotting out the stars. 3,000 warships arranged themselves in perfect attack formation. Their hulls were black and angular, designed to strike fear into enemies. Each ship bristled with weapons and carried enough firepower to level a city. Admiral Krestoth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Destroyer of Worlds. Through the massive viewscreen, he could see the peaceful blue and green planet that would soon belong to the Vorthak Empire. New Eden looked exactly like his intelligence reports had described. A quiet farming world with no visible defenses. "Admiral," reported his tactical officer, "we are detecting minimal activity in the system. A few civilian vessels, some orbital, platforms that appear to be agricultural processing stations, and one small ship approaching our position." "One ship?" Krestoth leaned forward. "What kind of ship?" "It appears to be a diplomatic vessel, sir. Human design. Very small, no visible weapons." On the main screen, a sleek white ship came into view. It was tiny compared to the massive Vorthak warships, like a butterfly approaching a swarm of hornets. The ship took position directly in front of the Vorthak fleet and opened communication channels. "This is Ambassador Sarah Chen of the Terran Diplomatic Corps," came a calm female voice. "I am authorized to speak for humanity in this matter." Krestoth smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Ambassador, I am Admiral Krestoth of the Vorthak Imperial Fleet. You are in violation of Vorthak space. Surrender immediately, and your death will be quick." "Admiral," Sarah's voice remained perfectly steady, "I am here to offer you one final opportunity to withdraw. You have 30 seconds to begin your retreat, or we will consider your presence an act of war." The bridge of the Destroyer of Worlds erupted in laughter. Vorthak officers clicked their mandibles in amusement. The idea that one small ship could threaten their entire fleet seemed like the funniest joke they had ever heard. "Ambassador," Krestoth said when the laughter died down, "are you seriously threatening 3,000 warships with a single diplomatic vessel? Your arrogance is almost admirable." 15 seconds, Sarah replied calmly. Krestoth's amusement turned to anger. "How dare you give me ultimatums? I will show you what happens to insects who threaten the mighty Vorthak Empire." 10 seconds. "All ships!" Krestoth roared into his communicator. "Target the human vessel. Prepare to fire. 5 seconds. "Fire," Krestoth commanded. "Destroy that insolent ship." Hundreds of energy beams and missiles erupted from the Vorthak fleet, all aimed at Sarah's small diplomatic vessel. The space around her ship lit up like a miniature sun as the weapons converged on their target. But something impossible happened. The weapons simply disappeared. They hit what looked like empty space and vanished without a trace, as if they had never existed at all. What just happened?" stammered the tactical officer. Before anyone could answer, space around New Eden began to change. What had looked like simple agricultural processing stations suddenly revealed their true nature. Massive weapon systems emerged from hidden compartments. Armor plating unfolded from what had appeared to be storage tanks. The civilian vessels in the system dropped their disguises, transforming into sleek warships of unknown design. And then, from seemingly empty space, hundreds of ships began to appear. They materialized out of nothing, their cloaking systems deactivating one by one. These vessels looked like nothing in the galactic databases. They were smooth and white, with curves that seemed to flow like water frozen in time. "Admiral," the sensor officer cried out in panic, "I'm reading massive energy signatures throughout the system. We're completely surrounded." Krestoth stared at the displays in disbelief. Where moments ago there had been a peaceful farming system, now there was a fortress bristling with weapons that defied understanding. The human ships moved with impossible grace, positioning themselves around the Vorthak fleet like hunters surrounding trapped prey. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Where did they come from? How did our sensors miss all of this?" Sarah Chen's voice came over the communication system again, still perfectly calm. "Admiral, you have fired upon a diplomatic vessel. This constitutes an act of war. You now have 2 choices. Surrender immediately, or face the consequences of your actions." "Never!" Krestoth snarled. "All ships, open fire! Destroy everything!" The Vorthak fleet unleashed its full fury. Thousands of weapons fired at once, creating a light show that could be seen from the planet's surface. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and fusion missiles filled the space between the fleets, but the human ships moved like dancers in a deadly ballet. They slipped between the incoming fire with impossible grace. Some weapons seemed to pass right through them without causing any damage. Others were simply absorbed by shields that appeared and disappeared like soap bubbles, and then the humans began to fire back. The first Vorthak ship to die was the cruiser Bone Crusher. A single beam of silver light touched its hull for less than a second. The massive warship simply stopped existing. There was no explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, and the next moment there was empty space. "What weapon was that?" screamed the tactical officer. "What kind of weapon can do that?" More silver beams lanced out from the human ships. Each beam touched a Vorthak vessel, and each vessel disappeared completely. The proud fleet that had seemed so mighty moments before was being erased from existence with surgical precision. "Shields! Raise all shields!" Krestoth commanded desperately. "Shields are up, Admiral, but they're not stopping the human weapons." A massive Vorthak battleship called the World Ender tried to ram one of the smaller human vessels. The human ship simply moved aside at the last second, and the World Ender found itself flying straight into a beam of golden light. The battleship froze in space for a moment, then began to fold in on itself like origami being reversed. Within seconds, the kilometer-long warship had been compressed into a small, perfectly round sphere. "This is impossible," Krestoth roared. "No species has weapons like this. How are they doing this?" Ambassador Chen's voice cut through the chaos on the bridge. "Admiral, this is your last warning. Order your remaining ships to stand down, or we will continue our defensive actions." Krestoth looked at his tactical displays. In less than 5 minutes, he had lost over a third of his fleet. The human ships hadn't even taken any damage. They moved through the battle like ghosts, untouchable and unstoppable. "Admiral," his communications officer said quietly, "we're receiving surrender requests from our own ships. Many of our captains want to give up." "No!" Krestoth slammed his fist on the command console. "We do not surrender. We are Vorthak. We do not bow to anyone." Another wave of human weapons fired. This time they used beams of blue light that seemed to turn Vorthak ships inside out. The mighty dreadnought Death Shadow became a twisted sculpture of metal and flesh, still technically intact but completely helpless. "Admiral," the tactical officer whispered, "we've lost half the fleet. Our weapons aren't even scratching their ships. How is this possible?" Krestoth stared at the view screen, watching his life's work being dismantled by an enemy he had thought was weak and helpless. The human ships continued their deadly dance, each movement precise and elegant. They weren't even fighting at full strength. This felt more like a demonstration than a battle. What are you?" he whispered over the communication channel. Sarah Chen's response came immediately, her voice still maddeningly calm as explosions lit up space around her tiny ship. "We are what happens when a species spends 2,000 years preparing for war, while everyone else assumes we're peaceful." A new type of weapon appeared from the human ships. Streams of silver particles that looked like liquid metal reached out and touched several Vorthak vessels. The ships didn't disappear or fold or turn inside out. Instead, they simply stopped working. Their engines went dead, their weapons powered down, and their life support systems began to fail. "Admiral," the engineering officer cried out, "we're losing power. Something is eating our ship's systems from the inside." Krestoth felt a chill run down his spine as he realized what was happening. The humans weren't just destroying his ships. They were studying them, learning from them, taking them apart piece by piece to understand how they worked. "This isn't a battle," he said in horror. "This is a dissection." More human ships were appearing every minute. Some emerged from behind the planet's moons. Others rose up from what had looked like asteroid fields. A few seemed to step out of hyperspace itself, appearing exactly where they needed to be at precisely the right moment. "How many ships do they have?" the sensor officer asked desperately. "I don't know," came the reply. "The sensors can't get an accurate count. There are too many stealth systems, too many unknowns. But Admiral, I think we're looking at just a small part of their fleet." Krestoth felt his legs give out. He collapsed into his command chair as the truth finally hit him. This wasn't the human military. This was just the local defense force for one farming world. And they were more powerful than his entire empire. On the view screen, he could see Ambassador Chen's small ship still floating peacefully in the middle of the carnage. She hadn't moved from her original position. She hadn't even raised shields. She was sitting in the middle of the most advanced space battle in galactic history, and she was perfectly safe. "Ambassador," Krestoth said quietly, I don't understand. Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't anyone warn us about your true capabilities?" Sarah's reply was gentle, almost sad. "Admiral, we have been telling the galaxy about our capabilities for 2,000 years. We told you through our actions, through our treaties, through our careful diplomacy. We gave you every possible hint that attacking us would be a mistake. You chose not to listen." The remains of the Vorthak fleet floated helplessly in space. Of the 3,000 ships that had arrived with such confidence, fewer than 500 were still functional. And those were only alive because the humans had chosen to spare them. "What happens now?" Krestoth asked. "Now," Sarah replied, "you learn why everyone else in the galaxy is so careful around humanity." The news of the Vorthak fleet's destruction spread across the galaxy faster than anyone thought possible. Within hours, emergency sessions were being called on every major world. The impossible had happened. Someone had actually attacked humanity. And the results were exactly what the older species had feared. On the crystal world of Velthara Prime, the crystalline hegemony's High Council was in chaos. Holographic displays showed the aftermath of the battle at New Eden. Twisted metal that had once been proud Vorthak warships floated in space like broken toys. "How many survivors?" asked High Counselor Kethran, his crystal body flickering with nervous energy. "Less than 500 ships out of 3,000, came the reply. "And those ships are being held in some kind of stasis field. The humans have not destroyed them, but they cannot move or fight. The humans are being merciful," another counselor observed. "They could have destroyed the entire fleet in minutes." "This is not mercy," Kethran said grimly. "This is a demonstration. They are showing the galaxy what happens when someone is foolish enough to attack them." Similar conversations were happening everywhere. On the gas giant world of Nebula Prime, the Floating Cities Assembly was holding an emergency vote to send an immediate apology to Earth. The machine intelligence had already calculated that expressing sympathy for the Vorthak would reduce their own survival chances by 78.3%. But the most important gathering was taking place in the Galactic Council chambers. An emergency session had been called, and for the first time in living memory, every single member species had sent representatives. The chamber was packed with aliens of every shape and size, all of them frightened and confused. Elder Counselor Merendai stood at the speaker's podium. Her ancient face was grave, and her glowing blue eyes held the weight of terrible knowledge. She had lived for over 3,000 years, and she had seen things that others had forgotten. "My fellow counselors," she began, "the time has come to reveal truths that we have hidden for too long. The attack on humanity has forced our hand. We can no longer maintain the illusion of ignorance." The chamber fell silent. Even the most talkative species stopped their nervous chatter to listen. "Many of you believe that humanity is simply another spacefaring species," Merendai continued. "You think they are peaceful farmers and miners who happen to develop space travel. This belief has been carefully encouraged for over 2,000 years, but it is not the truth." A murmur ran through the crowd. Some aliens leaned forward in their seats, eager to hear more. Others seemed to shrink back, as if they were afraid of what they might learn. "The truth," Merendai said, "is that humanity is not merely another species. They are the descendants and direct continuation of the Terran Empire, the same civilization that once conquered half the galaxy." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Shouts of disbelief filled the chamber. Some aliens fell out of their chairs in shock. Others began praying frantically in their native languages. "Impossible," cried the representative from the warrior clans. "The Terran Empire fell thousands of years ago. They destroyed themselves in civil wars." "No," Merendai said firmly. "They did not fall. They withdrew. There is a very important difference." She gestured to the holographic displays around the chamber. Images appeared showing ancient star charts, historical records, and archaeological evidence that most species had never seen before. 2,000 years ago, the Terran Empire controlled over half of this galaxy. They had technology that made our most advanced weapons look like children's toys. They had fleets that numbered in the millions. They had the power to create and destroy entire star systems at will. The images changed, showing battles from the ancient past. Human ships that dwarfed modern dreadnoughts fought against alien fleets. The humans always won, often without taking any casualties at all. But the humans grew tired of ruling. Marandai continued. They found conquest to be easy but boring. Governing other species was tedious work that offered no challenge. So they made a decision that shocked the galaxy. They chose to withdraw. Withdraw to where? Asked the representative from the Hive Confederation. To a single star system. Earth. Sol. The human homeworld. They consolidated their entire empire into one system and let the rest of us rebuild our civilizations. But they never gave up their technology. They never stopped watching. And they never stopped preparing. The chamber erupted in new cries of alarm and disbelief. The representative from the Star Serpent clan stood up, his scaled body trembling with emotion. Are you telling us that every human colony world is actually a military base? That every human trader is actually a spy? That everything we know about them is a lie? Not a lie, Marandai replied. An illusion. A carefully maintained performance designed to keep the peace. The humans you see in your spaceports and trading stations are real. But they are also soldiers, scientists, and intelligence agents, playing carefully assigned roles. More images appeared on the displays. They showed human colonies that looked peaceful and agricultural on the surface, but the deeper scans revealed massive underground installations filled with weapons and technology that defied understanding. Every human settlement is a fortress, Marandai explained. Every human merchant ship carries enough firepower to destroy a battle fleet. Every human diplomat has the authority to call down forces that could level entire worlds. The revelation sent shockwaves through the galactic community. Species that had thought themselves powerful suddenly realized they were insects compared to humanity. The Quantum Collective's representative actually fainted, his energy form dispersing and reforming several times in distress. But why? Cried the ambassador from the Peaceful Trading Union. Why maintain this deception? Why not simply rule the galaxy openly? Because open rule requires constant vigilance, Marandai answered. It requires putting down rebellions, managing disputes, and dealing with the endless complaints of subject species. The humans found it much easier to let us govern ourselves while they watched from the shadows. So we have never been truly independent, said the counselor from the Free Worlds Alliance, his voice bitter with realization. We have always been living under human control. No, Marandai corrected. You have been living under human protection. There is a difference. The humans could have enslaved every species in this galaxy. Instead, they chose to guide us toward peace and prosperity. They prevented wars, stopped genocides, and helped struggling civilizations develop, all while pretending to be simple farmers and traders. The implications were staggering. Every major peace treaty in galactic history had been secretly influenced by humanity. Every war that had ended quickly had been stopped by hidden human intervention. Every technological breakthrough that had been shared freely had come from human scientists working behind the scenes. The non-aggression pacts, whispered the representative from the crystalline hegemony. Every major species has treaties promising never to attack human space. We always thought it was because humans were good negotiators. No, Marandai said sadly. It was because your ancestors knew what would happen if you broke those treaties. The older species, the ones who remembered the Terran Empire, they made sure those pacts were signed and honored. They knew that attacking humanity would mean the end of everything. And now the Vorthak have broken that peace, observed the counselor from the machine intelligence. They have awakened something that was meant to stay sleeping. Yes, Marandai confirmed. For the first time in 2,000 years, humanity has been forced to reveal their true nature. The masquerade is over. As if summoned by her words, the chamber doors opened. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked in, still wearing her simple blue diplomatic uniform. But now everyone in the chamber could see her differently. She wasn't just a human diplomat. She was a representative of the most powerful civilization in galactic history. Sarah walked calmly to the speaker's podium. The crowd parted before her like water, every alien moving out of her way with newfound respect and fear. "Counselors," she said, her voice carrying easily through the massive chamber. "I come before you today to address the new situation created by the Vorthak Empire's attack on human space." The silence was absolute. Not a single alien dared to speak or even breathe loudly. For 2,000 years, humanity has maintained the peace of this galaxy through careful diplomacy and hidden strength. We have prevented countless wars, ended famines, stopped plagues, and guided your civilizations toward prosperity. We have done this because we believe that a galaxy at peace is better than a galaxy at war. Sarah paused, looking around the chamber, at the hundreds of alien faces staring at her in awe and terror. But peace requires that all parties respect certain boundaries. The Vorthak Empire has chosen to cross those boundaries. They have forced us to abandon our preferred methods of keeping the peace. "What does this mean for the rest of us?" asked Elder Counselor Merendai. Sarah's expression softened slightly. "For those who have honored their treaties and maintained peaceful relations with humanity, nothing will change. You will continue to enjoy our protection and guidance just as you always have." "And for those who might consider following the Vorthak's example?" asked the representative from the warrior clans. Sarah's smile was cold and absolutely terrifying. "I would strongly advise against such thoughts. The galaxy has just seen what happens when a minor farming world defends itself. You have not yet seen what happens when humanity decides to actively hunt its enemies." The message was clear. The age of hidden human power was over. From now on, everyone would know exactly who ruled the galaxy, and everyone would understand the consequences of challenging that rule. "The Vorthak Empire will serve as a reminder," Sarah continued. "They will survive, but they will never again pose a threat to galactic peace. Their remaining ships are being held in stasis while we decide their fate. Their homeworld is being educated about their new place in the galactic order." As Sarah spoke, reports began coming in from across the galaxy. Human colonies were dropping their disguises everywhere. Massive defense platforms were emerging from asteroid fields. Fleets of advanced human warships were becoming visible in systems where no one had known they existed. The galaxy would never be the same. The humans had been forced to step out of the shadows, and now everyone could see the true shape of their civilization. It was vast, it was ancient, and it was more powerful than anyone had imagined. The masquerade was over. The real galaxy was about to begin. 3 weeks had passed since the first shot was fired at New Eden. 3 weeks that had changed the galaxy forever. The Vorthak Empire's surrender came not with a grand battle or a dramatic last stand, but with a simple message transmitted from their homeworld. "We yield to the superior power of humanity. We beg for mercy." Emperor Thekvar himself had sent the message. The proud ruler who had authorized the attack on humanity now knelt in his throne room, broadcasting his submission to the entire galaxy. His magnificent palace, which had once been a symbol of Vorthak power, was now surrounded by human ships that had appeared from nowhere. Admiral Krestoth sat in the brig of his own flagship, no longer a proud military commander, but a prisoner of war. His ship, along with the few hundred surviving vessels of his once mighty fleet, hung motionless in space around New Eden. The humans had not destroyed them. Instead, they had simply stopped them. Some kind of field surrounded each Vorthak ship, freezing them in time and space. The survivors could see out, but they could not move, could not fight, could not even send messages without human permission. They were forced to watch as more and more human ships appeared in the system, vessels of designs they had never seen in any intelligence report. But the real shock for the Vorthak came when they learned the truth about what they had actually attacked. New Eden was not just a farming world. It was one of humanity's oldest colonies, a testing ground for new technologies, and a training base for their most elite forces. The simple farmers the Vorthak had planned to conquer included some of the most dangerous warriors in galactic history. The 50 million humans living on New Eden could have repelled the Vorthak invasion by themselves, without any outside help. The massive fleet that had appeared to defend them was just the local garrison, not even a significant portion of humanity's military might. Across the galaxy, the revelation of humanity's true nature was causing upheaval on every world. On some planets, panic reigned as governments tried to figure out how to respond to the new reality. On others, there was relief that the galaxy's hidden guardians had finally revealed themselves. The Galactic Council had been in permanent session for 2 weeks trying to figure out how to adapt to the changed circumstances. The old balance of power was gone forever. Every treaty, every trade agreement, every diplomatic arrangement had to be reconsidered in light of humanity's revealed capabilities. Elder Counselor Marin Dai stood before the assembled representatives, her ancient voice carrying the weight of history. "We must face the truth," she said. "Everything we thought we knew about galactic politics was wrong. We have been children playing at being adults while the real adults watched from the shadows." The chamber was filled with delegates from nearly every known species. They had come seeking answers, seeking guidance, seeking some way to understand their place in this new galaxy. Many of them looked scared, others seemed angry, a few appeared almost relieved. "What does humanity want from us?" asked the representative from the crystalline hegemony. "What are their demands?" "That," said a familiar voice from the chamber entrance, "is an excellent question." Ambassador Sarah Chen walked into the chamber, but she was no longer alone. Behind her came a dozen other humans, all wearing the same simple diplomatic uniforms, but now everyone in the chamber could see them for what they really were: representatives of the most powerful civilization in the galaxy. Sarah took her place at the speaker's podium, looking out at the sea of alien faces. Some of them had been her friends and colleagues for years. Others she was meeting for the first time. All of them were seeing her with new eyes. "Honored delegates," she began, "I come before you today not just as an ambassador, but as a voice for all of humanity. We understand that recent events have caused confusion and fear throughout the galaxy. We are here to address your concerns and explain what comes next." "What comes next?" echoed the representative from the Star Serpent clans. "Will you conquer us all? Will you enslave us? Will you rule openly as our masters?" Sarah's expression was patient, almost motherly. "We will do exactly what we have been doing for the past 2,000 years. We will maintain the peace. We will protect the weak from the strong. We will guide the galaxy toward prosperity and progress. The only difference is that now you know we are doing it." "But surely everything must change," protested the delegate from the warrior clans. "Now that we know the truth, how can things continue as before?" "Why should they change?" Sarah asked simply. "Has humanity's protection of your species been harmful to you? Have our secret interventions made your lives worse? Have our hidden influences brought you misery and suffering?" The chamber fell silent as the aliens considered her words. The truth was uncomfortable, but undeniable. The galaxy had experienced unprecedented peace and prosperity during humanity's secret guardianship. Wars had been brief and limited. Famines had been quickly ended. Plagues had been mysteriously contained. Technologies had been shared freely between species. "You have been good rulers," admitted the representative from the Peaceful Trading Union. "But we did not know we were being ruled at all, and that was the point," Sarah replied. "Open rule creates resentment and rebellion. Secret guidance allows each species to maintain their dignity and independence while still receiving protection and assistance." "What about the Vorthak?" asked Elder Counselor Marin Dai. "What will happen to them?" Sarah's expression became more serious. "The Vorthak Empire will serve as an object lesson for the galaxy. They will survive, but they will never again be a threat to galactic peace." As she spoke, holographic displays around the chamber showed images from the Vorthak homeworld. Human ships hung in the sky above every major city, their presence a constant reminder of the Empire's defeat. But the humans were not bombing or destroying. Instead, they were teaching. Vorthak children were attending schools run by human educators, learning about cooperation instead of conquest. Vorthak scientists were working alongside human researchers, discovering technologies that could help instead of harm. Vorthak leaders were being retrained in the principles of peaceful governance. "We are not punishing them," Sarah explained. "We are rehabilitating them. In a generation or two, the Vorthak will be productive members of the galactic community, instead of a threat to it. And if other species choose to follow their example," asked the representative from the machine intelligence, "what if someone else decides to test humanity's resolve?" Sarah's smile was calm, but absolutely chilling. "The galaxy has just seen what happens when humanity defends itself. Any species foolish enough to attack us again will discover what happens when humanity goes on the offensive." She gestured to the displays, which now showed images from human space. Massive shipyards that had been hidden for millennia were now visible, producing vessels that dwarfed anything in the known galaxy. Research stations that had pretended to be asteroid mining operations were revealing technologies that seemed like magic to other species. "This is still just a fraction of our true capabilities," Sarah said quietly. "What you saw at New Eden was a local defense force using outdated equipment. Our actual military has weapons and technologies that you cannot even imagine." The implications were staggering. If what they had seen at New Eden was considered outdated by human standards, then humanity's true military might was beyond comprehension. "What do you want from us?" asked the representative from the Hive Confederation, his voice barely above a whisper. "The same thing we have always wanted," Sarah replied. "Peace, cooperation, progress. The chance for every species to reach their full potential without fear of conquest or destruction. And in return, you continue to honor the treaties your ancestors signed. You maintain peaceful relations with your neighbors. You share your discoveries and technologies for the benefit of all. You help us keep the galaxy safe and prosperous." The chamber was quiet as the aliens processed this information. The terms were not unreasonable. In fact, they were the same principles that had guided galactic civilization for centuries. The only difference was that now everyone knew who was ultimately responsible for enforcing those principles. Will there be any changes to the Galactic Council? Asked Elder Counselor Marandai. Yes, Sarah said. The Council will be formally recognized as the primary governing body for interspecies relations. Its decisions will carry the full backing of human authority, and humanity will take a more active role in its proceedings. A new section of the chamber opened, revealing seats that had been hidden for generations. Human representatives filed in and took their places. No longer observers but full participants in galactic governance. We had hoped to remain in the shadows for many more centuries, Sarah continued. But the Vorthax actions have forced our hand. The masquerade is over. From now on, humanity will take its proper place as the protectors and guides of galactic civilization. The transformation was already beginning across the galaxy. Human installations that had been disguised as civilian facilities were revealing their true nature. Human agents who had posed as merchants and diplomats were stepping forward to offer their expertise openly. The hidden infrastructure that had maintained galactic peace for 2 millennia was finally becoming visible. What about our independence? Asked the representative from the Free Worlds Alliance. Will we still be allowed to govern ourselves? Of course, Sarah assured him. Humanity has no desire to micromanage every aspect of your civilizations. We will continue to intervene only when necessary to maintain peace and prevent suffering. Your species will remain free to choose their own paths, as long as those paths do not threaten others. And if we disagree with humanity's decisions? Asked the delegate from the warrior clans. Sarah's expression became very serious. Then you are free to voice your disagreements through proper diplomatic channels. What you are not free to do is resort to violence or threaten galactic stability. The Vorthak learned that lesson the hard way. As the session continued, the shape of the new galactic order became clear. Humanity would no longer hide their power, but they would use it responsibly. Species that honored their commitments to peace would continue to enjoy prosperity and protection. Those who chose aggression would face consequences swift and decisive. The galaxy was entering a new age. An age where the Guardians were no longer hidden in the shadows. An age where everyone knew exactly who kept the peace and how much power they wielded to maintain it. And in human space, on worlds that had pretended to be simple farming colonies, preparations were already underway for whatever challenges the future might bring. The masquerade was over, but humanity's commitment to galactic peace remained as strong as ever. The new order had begun.